Let me ask you something. What if the work you're avoiding is the very thing designed to save your soul? See, everybody wants the success, everybody wants the results, everybody wants the peace, but don't nobody want to go through the process. You keep praying for clarity, asking for purpose, begging for peace, and God's like, I already gave it to you. It's called work. Work is often seen as a necessary part of survival, something we do to earn, to provide, to sustain. But when you step back and look deeper, you'll realize that work at its core is a deeply spiritual experience. It's not just about the physical act of getting things done. It's about how you show up for yourself every day, how you commit to your purpose, and how you push past the voices in your head that say, I can't, or it's too much. Work reveals your inner world. It shows you your fears, your doubts, your limits, your excuses. And in doing that, it gives you the opportunity to confront them. Not once, not twice, but over and over again, until discipline becomes your nature. The grind forces you into moments of solitude where you're not surrounded by cheers or praise, you're alone with your effort. And that's where real reflection begins. That's where you hear your soul speak. That's when you realize that this effort isn't just changing your circumstances, it's transforming your spirit. Every repetition, every early morning, every late night, every rejection, every sacrifice, it all adds up to something far deeper than productivity. It builds something that can't be bought. It's a kind of internal power that comes only from consistency, from commitment, from surrendering to the process even when the outcome isn't guaranteed. When you work, you are engaging in a practice that forces you to look within. The way you handle setbacks, the way you deal with pressure, the way you maintain focus when distractions come from every angle, that's spiritual maturity being formed in real time. Because spirituality isn't always about stillness. Sometimes it's about the storm. Sometimes it's about standing in chaos with peace in your heart because you've trained yourself in the fire of responsibility. You've learned to lead yourself even when no one is leading you. You've learned to be obedient to the higher calling inside you that whispered, I'll keep going when everything around you says stop. Work makes you accountable not just to a job or a dream, but to your higher self. It exposes the gap between who you say you are and how you actually live. And every time you close that gap with action, with integrity, with consistency, you're not just improving your life, you're elevating your spirit. You're walking in alignment. You're becoming the person your destiny is calling for. You don't get to that place by skipping steps. You get there by honoring the process, by showing up when you don't feel like it, by refusing to let comfort rob you of your calling. It's in the grind that your spiritual roots deepen. You start to understand the value of struggle. You stop running from pain and start learning from pain. You stop asking for things to be easier and start asking for the strength to endure. That's when you become dangerous. Not because you're loud or flashy, but because your work ethic has become a reflection of your spiritual discipline. You've trained yourself to do what's necessary, not what's convenient. And that creates power, real power. Not just the power to succeed, but the power to withstand, to overcome, to rise again and again. No matter how many times life knocks you down, every task becomes an act of devotion. Not to money, not to applause, but to becoming. To becoming the strongest, sharpest, most grounded version of yourself. Because that version isn't found in comfort. It's found in commitment. It's found in waking up and doing the work regardless of how you feel. That's how the spiritual and the practical connect. That's how the inner world shapes the outer results. You begin to understand that your work is a reflection of your reverence for life, for purpose, for the responsibility you carry to fulfill what's been placed in your hand. Discomfort is one of the most honest teachers in life. It doesn't sugarcoat, it doesn't flatter, and it doesn't pretend. It shows up uninvited and exposes everything, your mindset, your habits, your beliefs. When you're uncomfortable, you can't hide. You can't fake discipline. You can't fake consistency. You either rise or you fold. And in that tension, in that pressure, growth is born. Most people run from discomfort because it feels like pain. But what they don't realize is that this pain is not punishment. It's preparation. It's shaping something inside of you that comfort never could. Comfort may feel good in the moment, but it will never demand more of you. Discomfort does. It pulls the greatness out of you. Because it leaves you no choice but to adapt, to grow, to fight. Every time you hit a wall physically, mentally, emotionally, that's the moment of choice. That's where growth is waiting. Discomfort is the proving ground of progress. It's where strength is refined. Not just the strength to lift more, run faster, or do better, but the strength to stay focused when you want to quit. The strength to forgive when it would be easier to hold a grudge. The strength to be patient when nothing is happening. The strength to believe when there's no visible reason to. Those moments that stretch you, that break your rhythm, that test your commitment. They're spiritual invitations to step into your next level. You can't pray for growth and then complain about struggle. You can't ask for discipline and then avoid pressure. What you're really asking for when you want growth is the opportunity to endure. You're asking to be made stronger, sharper, wiser. That doesn't happen in easy season. That doesn't happen when everything goes right. It happens when you're uncomfortable. It happens when you're rejected. It happens when things take longer than you expected, and you have to choose whether or not you're going to keep showing up with the same intensity, with the same heart, with the same focus. Discomfort will make you question everything. It will test your identity, your purpose, your vision. And that's the point. It strips away the fluff. It burns away the weak motives. It exposes whether you're chasing a dream or living from a deeper calling. Because a dream can be abandoned when things get tough. But when you're aligned with your calling, discomfort doesn't make you run. It makes you rise. You stop asking, why me? And start saying, try me. Or try me. You stop shrinking in the face of struggle and start expanding through it. There's no shortcut around discomfort. You have to go through it. You have to let it do its work in you. Because if you avoid your own transformation, you stay the same. You stay stuck. And you end up blaming people, blaming circumstances, blaming everything but the fact that you didn't want to be uncomfortable long enough to evolve. Growth doesn't come on sale. It costs you. It costs you. You excuse it. It costs you the right to complain. But what you get in return is priceless. Resilience, clarity, humility, strength. The kind of strength that can't be shaken by setbacks. The kind of confidence that isn't based on height, but on the hill you walk through and the fact that you're still standing. You learn more in discomfort than you ever will in success. Success might validate you, but discomfort develops you. And that development becomes your foundation. It becomes your anchor. So when the storm comes again, and it will, you don't break, you bend. Yes, you adjust, but you don't quit. Because you've been there before. You've lived in that space where everything in you said, stop, but your spirit said go. And you trusted that voice. You trusted the process. And through that trust, you became someone stronger, wiser, more grounded. Character isn't built when the cameras are on, when the crowd is cheering, or when the rewards are flowing in. Character is built in silence, in the unnoticed grind, in the small, consistent actions you repeat when no one's watching. The world celebrates outcomes, but the truth is that who you are becoming in the process is more important than what you are achieving. In silence, there are no shortcuts, no applause, no filters. It's just you and the choice you make in the moment, whether to push through or give in, whether to act with integrity or take the easy way out. Those quiet decisions shape your character more than any grand moment ever will. When you wake up early and stick to your routine, even though there's no one holding you accountable, that's character. When you choose to do the right thing, even though it might cost you something, that's character. When you give your best effort, not for recognition, but because it's who you are, that's character. And that kind of character can't be built in comfort. It can't be developed when everything is easy. It's formed in solitude, in the struggle, in the stretch of doing what's right when it would be easier to compromise. In the silent grind, your values are tested. You start to see the difference between who you pretend to be in public and who you really are in private. That gap is where growth happens. It's in that space where you begin to make decisions not based on who's watching, but based on what you stand for. You start to become consistent, not because of pressure, but because of principle. You don't cut corners. You don't look for the shortcut. You do the work, the real work, because you've made a decision that your standard doesn't change based on the situation. Your standard is your identity. And once you operate like that, you become unshakable. You learn to show up for yourself, not for the approval of others, not for praise, not for likes, But because you respect yourself too much to slack, because you honor the vision that's been planted in you, the work done in silence creates a level of inner peace that external success could never provide. You're no longer chasing validation. You're no longer seeking attention. You've locked in on who you are, and you've committed to becoming better each day, even if nobody else sees it. This is where greatness is born, in the quiet, in the unseen hours. While others sleep, you're studying. While others are wasting time, you're investing it. While others are giving up, you're showing up. That repetition, that effort, that silent commitment, it compounds. It turns into something unbreakable. And it gives you an edge that nobody else can see coming because they didn't witness the preparation. They don't know the hours you put in. They don't know the sacrifices. They just see the results. But you know, you carry it with you. You walk into every room with a quiet confidence because you paid the price in silence. And the best part is you start to trust yourself on a deeper level. You know what you're capable of because you've proven it to yourself over and over again. You didn't need someone to motivate you. You didn't need an audience. You didn't need recognition. You just needed a reason. And once that reason took root, it became stronger than the excuses, stronger than the obstacles, stronger than the doubt. You stopped negotiating with your goals. You stopped waiting for the perfect moment. You showed up in the imperfect, in the difficult, in the lonely. And that's what separates those who talk about potential from those who live it. When the lights are off and there's no one to impress, that's when your real habits show up. That's when your true mindset is revealed. And what you do in that space, in that stillness, is what defines everything else. It doesn't matter how talented you are if you lack the character to sustain it. It doesn't matter how far you rise if the foundation you're standing on is hollow. Character built in silence becomes the anchor that holds you steady when life gets loud. Discipline is the language of purpose. It's how your actions speak on behalf of your vision. Anyone can talk about goals, dreams, and ambition, but discipline is the proof, is what turns ideas into reality. It's the bridge that connects your current position to your potential. Without it, purpose is just a concept. With it, purpose becomes a force. Discipline doesn't care how you feel. It doesn't wait for motivation. And it doesn't negotiate with excuses. It shows up even when you don't want to, because it understands that consistency is more powerful than mood. Purpose will call you higher, but discipline is what gets you there. It's the daily decision to stay focused, to honor the process, to make the sacrifices no one sees or celebrates. It's doing what's necessary when it's hard, not glamorous, not exciting, but vital. Purpose demands structure, and that structure is built with discipline. You can't live a life of meaning if you're controlled by impulses. You can't fulfill a calling if you're ruled by convenience. Purpose requires order, intention, and follow through, and all of that flows from discipline. People talk about purpose like it's a feeling, like one day they'll wake up and just know it. But the truth is, purpose is revealed in motion. It's found in the doing, not just the dreaming. And what fuels that doing is discipline. Discipline creates clarity. The more you practice it, the more you align with your values. You begin to make choices that reflect who you're becoming, not who you were. It's not about perfection. It's about progress. It's about showing up day after day, building habits that support your growth, building a mindset that refuses to quit. Discipline is what holds you together when life tries to pull you apart. It's what keeps you grounded when you're tempted to drift. It's the reminder of why you started, even when the excitement fades. Purpose might inspire you, but discipline sustains you. Without it, your purpose becomes a fantasy, something you talk about but never lie. But with it, your purpose becomes a path, something you walk out daily with intention and grit. You stop chasing quick wins and start investing in lasting impact. You stop asking for easy and start embracing what's necessary. Every time you choose discipline over distraction, you train your mind to prioritize purpose. Every time you wake up early, every time you say no to something that doesn't serve your mission, every time you commit to the work, whether you feel like it or not, you're reinforcing your identity. You're becoming someone who can be trusted with the weight of their calling. You're becoming someone who doesn't fold under pressure, someone who doesn't need the applause to keep going. Someone who understands that the reward isn't just in the outcome, but in the becoming. Discipline isn't something you're born with. It's something you develop. It's built in the trenches of repetition, in the quiet choice to do what's right instead of what's easy. And the more you practice it, the more natural it becomes. It becomes part of who you are. And when that happens, purpose doesn't feel distant anymore. It becomes your compass. You don't wander. You don't guess. You move with clarity, with conviction, with direction. Not because life is perfect, but because you've chosen to live on purpose, with discipline as your foundation. People will admire your results, but what they won't see is the discipline behind them. They won't see the nights you stayed up working, the mornings you pushed through fatigue, the weekends you said no to distractions. But you'll know. You'll carry that quiet strength with you into every room, into every challenge. Because when you've lived with discipline, you no longer depend on inspiration to act. You act because it's who you are. You lead yourself before asking to lead others. You do the work before expecting the results. You respect the process because you know the power of walking in purpose with discipline as your guide. You can work hard every single day, pour in the hours, sacrifice sleep, and push yourself to the edge. But if your work isn't connected to your purpose, it starts to feel empty. It becomes a cycle of doing without becoming, of achieving without meaning. You can be busy and still be lost. You can be productive and still feel disconnected. Purpose is what gives your work life. It's what gives your struggle weight. It's the reason you keep going even when things don't go your way. It's the why behind the what. And without that why, work becomes routine. And routine without vision becomes a trap. When you wake up and you don't know why you're grinding, it's hard to stay motivated. You might still go through the motions, but your energy isn't the same. Your heart isn't in it. You start counting the hours instead of making the hours count. You look for validation outside because you've lost the inner drive that comes from knowing your mission. That's the danger of work without purpose. It drains you instead of fueling you. It depletes you instead of developing you. You become a machine instead of a messenger. Someone who works hard but never feels fulfilled. Purpose changes everything. It doesn't necessarily make the work easier, but it makes it matter. It turns your routine into a ritual, your task into a testimony. When you work with purpose, you stop chasing temporary rewards and start building lasting legacy. You stop comparing yourself to others because you understand your race is unique. You stop fearing failure because you recognize it as part of your assignment. Purpose redefines how you see obstacles. They're no longer interruptions, they're instructions. They're not there to stop you, but to shape you, to carve out the strength, the wisdom, the endurance that's required for your calling. There's a difference between doing work and doing the work you were designed for. One makes you tired, the other makes you come alive. One takes from you, the other draws out of you. And it's not always about passion. Passion comes and goes. Purpose stays. It stays when you're exhausted, when the results are slow, when the people around you don't understand what you're doing. Purpose is the anchor that keeps you grounded when everything else feels unstable. It's the compass that points you forward when distractions pull from every direction. When your work is connected to your purpose, you start to value the process. You stop rushing outcomes and begin to honor the journey. You understand that every season has a lesson. Every struggle carries a message. Every delay is developing something deeper in you. You stop working just to get through the day and start working to build something bigger than yourself. You recognize that what you do isn't just about you. It's about impact. It's about service. It's about becoming the person who can carry the weight of the vision you've been given. Purpose-driven work demands more from you, but it also gives more to you. It requires discipline, sacrifice, and resilience, but it returns fulfillment, growth, and clarity. It brings alignment between your actions and your identity. You don't feel like you're wasting time because you know where you're going. You're not just grinding for a paycheck. You're investing in your future, your family, your legacy. You start to move differently, think differently, live differently. You make decisions that honor your calling instead of satisfying your comfort. You prioritize what truly matters because your time, your energy, your focus, they all have a direction. And that's the power of purpose. It gives your work a soul. It gives your journey a narrative. It gives your pain a purpose. When you're aligned with that, the setbacks don't stop you. They sharpen you. The hard days don't discourage you. They define you. You don't just survive the process. You are transformed by it. You evolve. You you grow. You rise into a version of yourself that's capable of doing more than you ever imagined. Not because you worked harder than everyone else, but because you worked with meaning, with direction, with conviction that every step was part of a greater design. Transformation is the real reward of the journey. Not the money, not the fame, not the applause. Those things might come, and when they do, they feel good. But none of them compare to who you become in the process of getting there. The process will put pressure on you. It will challenge your mindset, break down your comfort zones, and confront every weakness. But that's exactly what it's meant to do, because you weren't called to stay the same. You were called to grow, to evolve, to unlock new levels of discipline, strength, and self-awareness that you didn't even know were inside you. There's a version of you that exists on the other side of pressure, a version that's sharper, stronger, more focused. But you don't meet that version by staying comfortable. You meet it by going through the fire. You meet it by embracing the grind, by showing up even when you don't feel like it, by refusing to quit when things don't go your way. Growth never happens in the easy moments. It happens in the stretching. It happens when you've done everything you know how to do and still have to find a way to keep moving forward. You start to realize that transformation isn't about changing your circumstances. It's about changing yourself. The process doesn't just shape what you do, it reshapes who you are. It removes what's not serving you. It humbles your ego. It silences your excuses. It teaches you how to stay consistent when no one's watching, how to keep going when nothing is working, and how to stay grounded when success finally comes. The person you were when you started isn't the person who finishes. That's the point. The grind is not just about achieving, it's about becoming. Every challenge you face is an opportunity to grow. Every obstacle you overcome adds something to your character. Every time you rise from a failure, you gain confidence not because you succeeded, but because you survived. You learned that your limits were never real. They were mental. They were created by fear, by doubt, by your past. And once you push past them, something shifts. You begin to trust yourself in a new way. You stop looking outside for validation. You stop depending on circumstances to motivate you. You become self-driven, purpose-fueled, and spiritually anchored. Transformation requires honesty. Where's honesty? You have to be real about where you are, who you've been, and what needs to change. That kind of reflection is uncomfortable, but it's necessary. You can't grow while pretending. You can't transform while holding on to who you were. Sometimes the process will isolate you. It will separate you from people, habits, and environments that no longer serve your growth. That's not rejection. It's refinement. It's the pruning that has to happen before the next season can begin. As you commit to the work to see internal shifts begin. You start thinking differently, speaking differently, moving differently. Your standards rise, your habits improve, your boundaries tighten. And all of it is happening quietly, consistently, beneath the surface, until one day the world sees what you already knew was coming. But even then, the real win isn't the spotlight. It's the strength you built in the dark. It's the resilience that was forged in your private battles. It's the clarity that came from every moment of doubt you had to fight through. The beauty of transformation is that it's permanent. Once you evolve, you don't go back. You may face setbacks, you may stumble, but the mindset, the identity, the discipline, it stays with you. It becomes a part of your DNA. You walk into new rooms differently because of what you've endured. You speak with conviction because of what you've overcome. You stand with confidence not because life got easier, but because you got stronger. The journey molded you. The process refined you. And now you carry the evidence of that growth in how you live, how you lead, and how you love. So now the question isn't whether you can do it. The question is, are you willing to become the person it takes to do it? You've heard the truth. You felt the fire. You've seen what's possible when discipline meets purpose, when faith meets action, when work becomes worship. No more waiting for the right time. No more hiding behind fear. No more living below your potential. Get up, lock in, go all in. Because the version of you that's been calling your name, the one with power, clarity, strength, and peace, isn't found in comfort. It's found in the work. It's found in the grind. It's found in the transformation. Your future is waiting, so go become it.